and I was unbelievably unprepared. But I was struggling, I got some offers, I had Rutgers, I think, Yale, I had a couple of local offers, became like a 3-star recruit. And then my junior year came around, it was supposed to be my big year. Ended up halfway through the year, I broke my arm, still got some plate and screws in there. And that kind of derailed, I think, my recruiting a little bit. And I never really was able to, I feel like, show my true potential and kind of move up in the, I was always a hater on the recruiting rankings and stars and whatnot. I thought that was overrated, but it does, kind of mean something at the end of the day. And it does, like, the kind of the narrative about you that you make early, kind of sticks with you. And when I got hurt, that definitely hurt. And I ended up, having, I think it was 5 Power 5 offers going into my senior year. And I just felt like, at the end of the day, I had some guys late come in, Georgia late offered me, like, really, really late. But it just felt like, I had already committed to K-State at that point. And when I was looking at committing, I felt like there were some other places out there that I really liked, and some places closer to home kind of fell through. And it really, at the end of the day, was either probably K-State or the Ivy League. And I decided to kind of bet on myself and go K-State. And even though it was further away from home, that was really the only thing I didn't like about K-State, because they offered me in about 2 days. I started talking to them. I sent them a DM. They offered me in about 2 days, which I was like, man, that means a lot, because all these schools at home are kind of stringing me along and not offering me, like Pitt, Syracuse, Boston College. Never got an offer from any of them. They'd been talking to me since my freshman year and never ended up getting an offer. And it's like, a school like K-State comes in, start talking to them, get an offer. It's like, that means something. So I went out, I took a visit, and I was like, man, I actually really love this. I didn't think anything of it. I was kind of like, hey, they're going to pay for me to come out, do an official visit. I did it like the first week I could possibly do officials. Like, there was no real sense in my mind that I was like, I'm going to go to Kansas State. And I got there and I was like, man, I love this. And I love the people and I love the place. And I was like, the only thing I couldn't get over was how far it was from home. But once I finally, I prayed on it a lot, talked to my family a lot. And, I kind of came to the conclusion that, like, man, like, this is where I'm meant to be. And I ended up taking a shot and committing there, and it all ended up working out, and it was definitely where I was meant to be. And my early career at K-State was tough, man, but that's kind of how I ended up there. So when I came in, it was January of 2020, so it was right before COVID hit, and so I early enrolled, which was tough. It sucked because I was playing basketball. I left, I was at home with all my friends. I was the oldest of all my siblings. Everything just, it was tough leaving home and seeing everyone still at home and doing whatever. I was homesick for sure. And obviously COVID hit, and it was like, okay. So I did that, and we didn't even get spring ball. I didn't get any live reps of anything until we got back. June came around and we were still working out, but it was weird. It was COVID. And I was really competing for, when I first got there, in my mind, I was like, hey, I really want to travel this first year. I think that'd be great if I could make it onto the travel squad. That'd be awesome. And so I shot for that, and I was like, man, I think I could really, make a run for this backup job. And I was competing with Nick Ost, who's still a good buddy of mine, Jaron Lewis, who I'm super tight with to this day. And those two guys helped me a lot. And through that, I don't think any of us were really sure who the backup was going to be until really the first game came. I wasn't really sure. Like, I was like, okay, I think I'm going to win this backup job. I think it'll be, I think it'll be solid, and I think I'll be good. But it was the first game of the season. Skylar was, having some problems with his leg, couldn't really run the ball well. And I ended up actually going in and running the ball, and ran. I think I played 4 snaps the first game, and I was like, got my feet wet a little bit. And then obviously the third game came around, and that was really the first time I realized, like, oh, I'm the backup. Like, okay, I'm the second string. And then, but I still wasn't really ready. Like, I don't think I was, I hadn't gotten a live snap on the field with anything until fall camp, and we had like 10 days of fall camp, I think, and like a bunch of them got canceled, and it was crazy. So I felt like I was out there kind of still feeling my way through it, and then game 3 comes around, Texas Tech, and Sky tears his pec, and he's out for the year. And they're like, "Hey, Will, all right, it's your time." And I was unbelievably unprepared. I didn't really barely even know our offense well enough to where I'm out there. I look back at that and I'm like, man, that was a rough year. I'm not gonna lie. It was, it didn't. We started off. I came in Texas Tech. We beat them. Went down to TCU. Started, beat them. Still, wasn't playing great. Beat Kansas at home, and then we lost 5 straight to lose or to end the year, and it was rough. I was struggling mentally, physically. I was dealing with a shoulder injury that not anyone knew, and I couldn't really throw the ball well. Like, I was just down on myself. I was alone. I was living alone. It sucked. I was an 18-year-old kid. Like, I didn't really know. I lost a lot of confidence that year, and I came back my sophomore year, and Skyler came back for his 6th year, which was understandable. I understood why he'd come back. So I'm like, hey, okay, I got to wait 1 more year, and then it can be, my turn. And game 2 comes around, Sky tears his PCL in his right knee, and I'm like, son of a bitch, man, I got to go back in. All right, let's go. But I felt this time I was like, hey, I'm ready. I've put in all this work. I did this last year. I'm ready. And I go in and I struggled again, and it was this second wave of like, oh my gosh, like, maybe I'm not ready. Maybe I'm not. And I just doubted myself, and maybe I'm not good enough to play at this level. And just wasn't myself. I just didn't feel like myself out there. And I started 3-4 games that year, ended up burning my red shirt. Just the year just did not go as I wanted it. The Texas game that year was rough. Ended up firing our OC after that game. I think I threw the ball like 9 times in that game. Just zero faith in me. And you felt it. And it was just, and after that, and they told me going into that game, like, hey, you're going to be the guy going into next year. We want to build up your confidence. And it just didn't happen. And then they went out and get Adrian Martinez. And, me, I'm like, what the hell, man? Like, you guys told me to burn my red shirt. This was going to be my year. And, I understand why they did it. Like, I had not proven myself up to that point, but, the things they told me, it pissed me off a little bit. And they knew it. And like, I talked to Coach Kleiman about it, man. Like, he knows how I felt about it at the time, but, I understand, man. I get it. Like, I hadn't proven myself. They had to bring in someone, and looking back at it, but in the moment, it's hard to really understand that. And, obviously I could have left, I could have entered the portal. And I thought about it. I was really close, but, I said, you know what? They're saying it's a competition. I'm going to bet on myself, stay here, see what happens this year. I ended up losing the job. That didn't feel good, but, that year I finally started to say, like, you know what? Screw it, man. I'm going to just be me, just go out here and play. And, we played 6 games. I hadn't played at all. Going into that 6th game, or going into the 7th game, was TCU down there. I come in off the bench, throw 3 touchdowns, like 300 yards, played really well. We ended up losing. The next week, Adrian's still a little banged up, didn't know if he was going to play or not. And it was quite literally a game time decision. Like, after warmups, Coach Kleiman pulled me and Adrian into the tunnel, asked Adrian, how do you feel? And he said, I don't think I'm 100%. I can't. Like, he just didn't feel like he could go out there and do what he had to do to let our team win, which was admirable. And Coach Kleiman was like, all right, Will, you're going. It's like, all right, well, shoot, let's go then. And so I roll out there, and we beat the number 19 Oklahoma State 48-0 at home. I threw 4 touchdowns in the first half, 297, and played like nearly a flawless game. Got carried off on my teammates' shoulders. Felt like I was on top of the world. The next week we come back, we play Texas, and I didn't start. I was on the bench. And it's weird, man. It's a weird feeling. And they said they wanted to save my red shirt, and it's all good, and then ended up going down to Baylor, and Adrian unfortunately got hurt again, man. And Adrian and I are like, super tight to this day. I mean, Adrian, the way that he went about the transfer and the whole situation, like I tried to emulate my transfer after him because I respected how he went about it so much. And he and I are super, super tight to this day. I mean, we really won that Big 12 together. Like we were like you can say that I won it because I was starting that game, but like we wouldn't have won that thing without him. And like he just went about it so well. And then I ended up coming in, winning the rest of the games that year, going down to Dallas, beating TCU damn near in their backyard, on a like one of the craziest games in K-State history. And you know, it's crazy because then you're feeling like you're flying high and you're the guy, man, and everyone's says you're great and telling you, and it feels like, you know, for me, I was like, oh, I've made it, you know, I finally made it through all that shit that I went through, man, like all the stuff that I just, that I, you know, just, it weighed on me and it just, I was ready to freaking hang up the cleats. Like I didn't know if I loved the game anymore. And then this all comes in. I'm like, man, like this is why I trusted God this long. This is why I prayed. This is why I like kept working. Like this is why. And then, you know, going into my senior year, it was like, all right, you know, let's ball out, have a good year and go to the NFL. And, you know, you go through that year and first couple games, you know, I'm turning the ball over a little bit too much. You know, we got a stud kid, Avery, and they wanted him to come in and run the ball a little bit. And, you know, I start, you know, kind of having some struggles again. And it's like, man, like it kind of taught me like you've never made it, you know, no matter how far you've come, how much you've gone through, you've never made it. And, you know, there's always going to be struggle and strife and no matter what, like you're going to have to push through stuff. And that was like that and I know I'm being lengthy with my explanation of my time at K-State, but like as much as it sucked and as much as I, you know, wish that I didn't have to go through some of the things that I did because it was brutal on an 18, 19-year-old kid, you know, like I struggled, man. I really did. But, you know, I look back on it, I'm like, man, like God gives his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers. And like he wanted me to go through all that stuff. And it taught me how to be a man and how to be better. And like I really came into my own there at K-State, and it prepared me, like you said, for this opportunity here at Ohio State. And now, you know, I'm on the biggest stage playing in front of, you know, pretty much the world every week. And it's like, you know, if I didn't go through all that stuff at K-State, like I don't think I'd be able to do what I'm able to do at this level and kind of block out the noise. And even after a tough game like last week at Oregon, you know, it gets real loud and, you know, people are, you know, going to say what they want to say. But, you know, if you're a process-based person and you truly have confidence in yourself, then the things that people say about you, then they don't matter as much. You know, Aaron Rodgers said, you know, on a podcast, I think it was Rogan's podcast, you know, don't take advice from people, or don't listen to people you wouldn't take advice from. And, you know, like that kind of struck me a little bit. I was like, man, like, you know, why am I listening to these people if I wouldn't take advice from them, you know? And it kind of taught me to be a little more grounded. And if you're a process-based person, like you're not going to worry about the results as much, and you're not going to worry about what other people have to say about you. Why would I listen to what someone else is saying about me? Like, why would I, if I know who I am, why would I have to hear someone else tell me that? You know, like it's all based on intrinsic confidence and believing in yourself. And through my time at K-State, I know I'm getting lengthy with it, but through my time at K-State, man, like it taught me a ton, and I'm eternally grateful as much as it sucked, you know, at times. You know, I'm grateful for the people and the experiences that I went through, and it made me who I am today.
One thing that did strike me is you made Avery Johnson's life probably a lot easier during this BYU game recently, where he had to go through a moment where he had to be mortalized. And I think probably some fans sat down and realized we've been through this before. We can maybe take it a little easier on this young man, knowing that
Yeah.
we've seen what can happen.
And, you know, I hope Avery, you know, he's a great kid, man. And the thing is, at the end of the day, man, like football's football, and you're not going to be perfect. You're going to have bad games. There's going to be a day where maybe you're just not on. Maybe you're not feeling great. And the reality is, man, you got to, it's all about how you bounce back. And Coach Kelly always talks to me about, like, mental toughness. It's how fast you can bounce back and move on to the next most important thing. And whether that's the next rep, the next play, the next game, next practice, whatever it is, like, you got to move on. And I hope in my time at K-State, Avery, was able to see from my experiences that, like, the sun's going to rise tomorrow. And, as bad as it may feel in the moment, you know, it happens, and you're not always going to be perfect, man. And there's going to be struggles that you're going to have to work through, but it's going to make you stronger. And I think he's done a really good job the last couple of weeks of coming back and being better because of it. And I think, he's a great kid, man. And I have no worries about him.
Elite hair.
Oh, lead hair. He's got some unbelievable. I used to call him Goldilocks back when I was over there. I gave him a hard time a little bit, but it's he's got some locks on him, man.
You've talked about your faith, and it was something that when I talked to Kobe, he said that was an area you guys really connected. It was the first thing he said out of his mouth was like, Will is a man of God, and that's something that we deeply connected on. And through this up and down journey, what was the moment where you felt, because there could have been a lot of them, where you were at your lowest, and how did faith help you get through that?
There was some low times, man, and I don't know if I could pinpoint just one. Really, my whole freshman year, I really started leaning into my faith a little more, and just trying to be around people that, just encouraged me in my faith. Whether it was just going to church or just going to, just going to talk with other people who were deep in their faith, like, just trying to have conversations and just be more aware of God's presence. And I grew up in a Catholic household, and I was always, went to church and whatnot, but I don't feel like I really, like, dove into it and tried to, like, understand what God wanted from me and what it meant to be a child of God until I really got to college and had to live on my own and try and kind of navigate it by myself a little bit. And in my junior year, that year when I was not starting, it was early on that year, I lost my grandma, and that was who I was really close with. She lived with us for a couple years, and that was tough. Like, that moment, I really had to lean on my faith, and, like, I was in a lot of ways just kind of lost. Like, I just did not know what to do or where to go. And when I kind of finally stepped back and after a couple weeks of just being a little like, where do I go from here? Like, what do I do? I kind of stepped back and I said, all right, God, like, I trust you, like, you take it from here. And when I finally got my chance that year, like, I just felt like I was playing free. And that's what I feel like when you give it up to God. And I'm not perfect, man. Like, I sin. I'm not. I hope, I strive to be better, and I want to be better, and I've been better. I think especially since being here at Ohio State, man. Like, there are some guys on the team who are unbelievably, just they're just passionate about the Lord, and it makes me want to be better, man. Like G. Scott, like, I mean, he's gonna do something, some sort of missionary work when he's finished. I think Emeka is unbelievable in his faith. Travion, unbelievable. JT, like, all these guys do some unbelievable things, and for me, it's helped me a lot. Like, it's encouraged me in my faith, and it's made me, want to be better in it, and it's also made me play a little more free.
What was the moment during this run where you most felt something greater come through you?
It was 100% that Big 12 championship year. Like, when I started playing, it just felt different. I don't know what, like, I couldn't describe it, but when I went in that game, I remember the first, so that TCU game, it was the first time I just felt really connected with my grandmother before that game, and I wrote her name on my cleats, and I wrote her name on my wristbands. And before the game, I listened to the last voicemail she sent me right before She passed, and I listened to it 2 times before I went out there on the field, and it just like I felt this like immense calm. Like I just did not feel any sort of pressure at all. And I just felt at peace. And it was like something I'd never really felt before on a football field. And when I went out there, like I had no worries. Like I was literally like, God's got me. Like I felt like this greater like purpose and this greater power over what I was doing. And I didn't feel like I had to do anything. I just felt like I kind of let it happen. And that whole rest of that year, like that was, in my mind, that was her. She had her hand on me the whole way. And I think, you know, God like really helped me. And that whole season, like just really, um, you know, kind of materialized that way. And I was able to just kind of give it up. And it started like a little, you know, that voicemail, like that. I do that every game now. Like that was something I do every game. I write her name on my wristbands every game. Like there's little things that I started because of that. And it just makes me feel a little more like every time I listen to that, I listen to it once on the bus and then once in the locker room right before we go out. And it both times, like even this weekend, like I did it, and it just like I almost take a deep breath and then just feel this calmness, you know, and it takes some of the nerves and stress away. You know, it's just like, all right, you know, I got this, you know, it's not me. It's not me doing this. It's something greater. And you know, when you're not playing for yourself, when you're playing for something more, and when you're playing for the Lord and for everyone who came before you, like it frees you to play loose, man, and not worry about anything.